Welcome to Season 3 of Reality Digest. I am here with our wonderful guest of the week, Ian Miller of The Enthusiasts. How are we doing today?
Yeah. I mean, it's quarantine, so like it's a daily stream of monotony and suffering, but we're hanging in there. How about you, Bob?
He captures all the feelings we're feeling but afraid to say. Thank
Fear.
you very much for coming on
Constant
today.
fear.
I know you have a very busy schedule.
Yeah, busy, huh? Literally, the only thing on my calendar in the last year has been our movie, which promptly got canceled. So, as busy as I am, I'm definitionally not. So,
Ian, they don't know about that.
Oh, are we supposed to be on an NDA on that? Shit, my bad.
Oh no, the cat's out the bag.
I missed the memo.
That's right,
on
ladies
that.
and gentlemen. We have been working on a film for the past little while, which of course our little pandemic has put a little nail in its tiny little coffin. So
it's a pretty coffin. I mean, it's a pretty fucking.
It's a pretty
coffin.
damn coffin.
Oh Lord, it's
fit for a child.
Fit for a child, my baby.
Our children's coffins a little off the joke page today.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we might want to cut that. You know,
okay,
that's
we'll cut that out. No worries.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so today I have a couple pre-decided topics. Ian, if you got anything you want to just spit out, we can do something as well. But I mainly wanted to get into how we're staying sane in quarantine. I just put out a video when I started recording, so would have been about a week ago when this comes out. Basically, I just talked about things you can do to stay sane in quarantine and things you can occupy your time with, but as creatives, we have special things and special ways we need to.
Are you saying we have special
creativity.
needs? Come on, we aren't supposed to say
I'm
we
not
have.
saying we're special needs, but I'm not saying.
Got it. Okay, as long as we're on the same page there. I feel like the question's a little bit of a trick question. To not go insane.
It absolutely is.
But, if that's the broad subject, I will say. Picking up a non-essential, or well, non-essential is the wrong word choice here, but what's a good word here? A non-direct hobby is going to be a lot, like, very important. And what I mean by that is it's going to be very important to find something that you can do even mindlessly without, too much thought or care or worry, and that it brings you even just a slight level of elevation when you accomplish something. I've just started doing artsy stuff. Like my mother has this tablet and this Apple pen she never uses, and I've hijacked it from her during all this, and I've been working on artsy stuff like that. And that's my personal tip for success, just broadly, is finding that kind of hobby. I've been drawing over lines of pictures of my girlfriend because I miss her a lot. Stuff like that.
Fucking nerd.
I know. Single people problems, am I right? But it's just like that's been important. And then finding a way to continue your work. I don't want to say posthumously, because, for a lot of us, a lot of those jobs and a lot of those things that we found fulfilling preceding this aren't coming back.
They're not going to completely go away.
Yeah, but like they're not going to completely go away, but they're not going to completely come back either. So I want to say, post Corona, finding a way to continue.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that I think is very important, is to remember that there is going to be a pre-Corona and a post-Corona. There's going to be a separation in how we think about our data lives. data lives, our daily lives.
Ooh, we could talk about
just
data.
in general, the way we go about things won't be the same. And that's not to say it'll be unrecognizable and it's going to be a change for the worse. I don't really think it'll be a change for the better either. I just think it's going to be a change nonetheless.
I want to have the positive vision that it will be a change for the better based on the current progress we're making in Congress, but I will not make a positive claim.
And I think a change like this, a big, large, jarring turn, provides the footprint for a very positive change or a series of positive changes. I definitely think that's possible. But just in general, what we're going to see is just a change in the way of life.
Oh, totally.
And if trends are trends, then in general, it will be positive changes and yada, yada, yada. But in general, speaking of generality, to be frankly general.
General Frankson, sir, reporting for duty. I'm your personal lieutenant. You can, I'm reporting for my gun inspection. Oh, that good stuff. No.
I mean, one way to stay creative is make up your own stories. Becoming a minor novelist in these days is not the worst thing you could do. You could be Jake Paul.
There have been one thing that I've definitely been latching onto lately is that there have been multiple writing contests that are going on. And if you're feeling ballsy enough to do one of those, it's definitely a great way to force yourself to get into it. There was a shorts writing contest that I placed in, 20 out of the 1,000. I was top 20 for that, so I felt pretty proud of that. In terms of progress, but one of the things that I found is important is finding communal things in the context of quarantine that you can compete and make progress in. Like that,
it's a small way to kind of feel attached to people and feel part of something.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of
a small way to feel something in this touch deprived society.
Right, exactly. And there's also the idea of the sense of accomplishment that we need to foster during all of this is super important. We need to feel...
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that the creative field can supply to a lot of the people that are little jarred from this whole experience that kind of need an outlet. And I mean, for all time and infinity, being creative and art and photography, filmmaking, all of those sort of things have been outlets for anyone in general. It doesn't just have to be a creative person. But I think now, more than ever, it's a necessary kind of outlet that needs to be put in front of people.
And I think it's important because it fosters that sense of productivity. It's one of those things that drew me to Andrew Yang's platform back when he was running, is that promoting the idea that productivity does not necessarily have to have an economic direction or an economic direct input, at least in the traditional sense. And feeling we need to allow for people to feel productive and meaningful within their work, even if it's not economically derivative, if that makes sense. And in this time where we should not be economically derivative, where we should not be propelling ourselves through the economy or supporting the economy at the expense of human lives.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that this crisis is illustrating in America, is that we put our own creative pursuits and our own our personal journey behind the economic, everything that we need in regards to the economy. We put the economy ahead of ourselves too often, and that's something that has just been painted in bright red colors because of all the things that have happened.
Absolutely. And it's a shortcoming. I don't think because, not to say I'm an anti-capitalist, but what super pro-capitalist people don't seem to understand about the market and the way the market functions is it's supposed to, within their model, actively serve the people that participate in it naturally, because that's the way it's supposed to behave, because the people drive it in theory. The problem is our current model does not actively it doesn't purport to even do that. It doesn't even claim to do that. It's actively avoiding the subject in that capacity, you know? And
right, and I think that's kind of how it's developed over time, is with large industry in the first and second industrial revolution. It just became easier for them to bully the government into forming a more open and free market economy that is more economic driven instead of human driven.
Absolutely. And I think it is that factor within this context that is really being put on display, in that the government just put out, their 2.2 trillion recovery plan, and they're passing out their HEROES Act now. They just passed the HEROES Act and omitted a potential $2,000 a month recurring payment plan in order to get it passed.
There's a lot of omittance with everything that they've put out. I mean, I have so many complaints with the support, the $1,200 for every American kind of deal.
Every American,
it has
except,
so many,
except poor black people who didn't file their taxes, except college students who, they just happen
college students that are still claimed by their parents and are over the age of 16.
Or, the list goes on.
If you live in a household with an undocumented immigrant, none of you get a check.
I didn't know that one. Oh my God. Oh,
it's incredible, huh?
I didn't know we hated immigrants that much. Yes, I did. I'm lying to you. I
mean, it's fascinating to see, what are they going to do next?
But tying it back to creatives, I've been thinking about this for years. This is something I might even just write a script about long term. But there are tons of, for example, the number one example I like to bring up when it comes to the idea of why a UBI long term would be a good idea for creatives is there are people who do art that contributes to the value of their city, namely spray paint artists who, they tag buildings and such like that, and they're not getting paid for their art because, their art's vaguely illegal, but it's adding
on
value.
The scale of...
Well, I was just going to say it's adding value to the city, but they're not getting anything out of it other than the artistic validation, which, mind you, super important and part of the reason why they should continue to do it. But it's... If we economically supported all of these creatives who aren't getting paid right now, and all of these people who I feel like the stir crazy factor would go down for creatives if we knew that long-term art industry, I don't know if this applies to all creatives, but for me, this virus didn't change my economic stresses as much as it probably should have. Sure, I couldn't.
For a lot of different people, it definitely hit a lot harder. I'll be honest, I wasn't very hard hit by this. I have a steady job at a essential place of employment. I have parents that can give me money if I need it. I have free housing with my family. I'm not very hard hit, but there are people who are, and there are creatives who are very hard hit because for one reason or another, they have to be self-supportive.
And it's one of those ideas where, for a lot of these creatives, even before all of this happened, for the ones who were able to do what they loved and continue to get to do what they love, this won't affect them, except that it's delaying that process. For those who didn't get to do what they loved before because the economy didn't support them doing it, and then it doesn't even support them to live in the first place. That stir craziness has only accentuated what they were already feeling, which was this oppressive inability to do what they loved and to do what they wanted to do.
Right.
And
no, it's one of the sharpest knives of the economy is its monetary scale does not make room for the kind of service that artists provide. Certainly there is a place for artists to make money, but it's not in an effective way for their creative outlets.
In a country like America, where we have the resources to actively support everyone consistently without fail, almost indefinitely, I genuinely don't understand why we continue to force people to work in fields they don't want to work in when that's not required anymore. There are jobs.
Ian, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch that video. You're going to do such a great job with that.
Thank you. I'm certainly looking forward to it. But there's just...
Here's a small introduction to our new channel partner, Ian Miller. He will be coming on doing some videos, and we're both working together here at the E-Show Incorporated.
We are expanding. I'm looking forward to that so much. That's legitimately part of...
huge expansion coming up. Huge expansion we got planned out.
Like,
But we can't go full...
We can't go into details.
Full deep on this yet.
No. Yet. I can't spoil things like I spoiled the movie. I'm not a goof.
In my experience on this channel is when I actually go into detail about these kind of future plans is they kind of don't tend to materialize. So I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah,
I want to get ourselves a solid plan first, and then we'll unload it all on you guys.
That's
oh, by the way, we hit 100 subs.
Oh, we did? That's amazing. But also unload it on all of you guys. That's terrible phrasing. That is the worst phrasing I think you could have chosen.
Yeah. To unpack it all for you.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to save it at this point. No.
Yeah, it's gone. I'm canceled. I mean, there's a good run, guys. I'll see you at McDonald's.
Ooh, hot.
Would you like to supersize that?
I would like to supersize that. No.
No, Ian.
No, Ian. I am super excited for all of those things. And I think that's another thing we can tie into this in a closing statement is try and find things to be excited about. Because there's plenty of shit to be dour about right now. So much you could think on and sink on, but
I'm so terrible with names. Who's that guy from The Office that's doing that YouTube?
John
series?
Krasinski. Oh yeah, Some Good News is
John
the best show on YouTube.
Some Good News.
That's the best show on YouTube right now. That's so important. But
no, I think it at least just as a reminder that there is still a lot of good going on in the world. I think he focuses a lot on just all the good stuff and positive things that people are doing to combat the quarantine and the virus and all that. But there's also a lot of things outside of that to be excited for. Like, sure, the Olympics are getting postponed, but they're going to be... Imagine how epic they're going to be since they have to postpone it a whole year. They're going to have to go
extra training time.
Right?
And it's also...
We're going to see I guarantee we will see a world record broken in every single sport.
I think you're right. I think that's going to be a big burst of categories being conquered. But even more importantly, I think it's going to be about... from a personal perspective, I think we need to make sure that people are seeing those things, looking forward to those things. But also, you guys, I think, need to create your own opportunities in this, not to be like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but more in the sense of I'm gonna do this when all of this resolves, and I'm gonna look forward to this. I cannot wait to see my old friends when all of this resolves. I don't get to see them right now, and that does suck, but there is that thing looking forward of, hey, I will get to see them, and when I do, it's gonna be amazing. And it's not to say, changing your perspective on it, because that's super pretentious and awful and can be victim blaming, but there is that idea.
No, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about when it comes to quarantine when it comes to ending. But when you try to end it too quick and you're like, oh, I don't care, I just want to see my friends real quick.
Oh,
I agree. It sucks and it's awesome to see your friends, but when you do that, you effectively extend the amount of time you have to, oh, I don't care, I'm going to go see my friends, when you have to make up excuses to go see these people, when if you just wait it out a little longer, you'll have that thing to look forward to and you'll get to see them.
And it's important to remember that in the short term, you may be validating yourself in that capacity, but in the long term, you are postponing the ending of this for everybody.
What are your grandchildren going to say about that?
Exactly. You have to be thinking long term in that way. And if you're not...
The only reason I do good things, to be honest, is what am I going to tell my grandkids?
Honestly, I'd rather see people be morally righteous and have that be their reasoning, like having a positive legacy than not being morally, in a good place. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather see people have that mindset, right. Even though, like, personally, I'd rather have the mindset of, like, I'm here now and I can make a difference for everybody now and in the future. As, my...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but one of my favorite examples of, like, a neutral good test is a shopping cart. Have you heard that?
No, what is that?
So basically, when you're done shopping, you have pretty much two options. You can put your shopping cart in the shopping corral, in the cart corral.
Oh, yeah.
Or you can just leave it right there next to you.
Oh,
now,
a bad
there's
person.
no negative impact. There's no negative impact to you leaving it just sitting out in the parking lot. And there's also no immediate good impact to you putting it in the corral. But you know that that's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the question, what will you do without any immediate benefit or immediate cost?
That's such a good, that's actually, yeah, I like that a lot. I know personally I would, obviously like to think I would put it
personally,
away
I would bring it right back into the store and wipe it off for them.
Of course, every time. But, and sometimes, and I think sometimes people are going to have bad days and leave it out, but we got to try and think positively of them, even when they do.
No, and that's what makes it even better is because it's not like a single event. You're constantly doing this every week when you go shopping.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a good point, yeah. Ooh, we could talk about iDubbbz if you have an extra 2 minutes, because high key, that was something that entertained me.
Screw it. Let's talk about iDubbbz.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull up his Twitter right now.
Hit it. Literally, I'm gonna come out here and say it. And maybe this isn't exactly just iDubbbz, but this is just a general thing. iFunny and internet reverse counterculture is swinging towards conservative right Christian men being, quote, kings. Awful. The worst thing I've ever seen on the internet, and I will stand by that. It is sex negative. It is objectifying. It is repulsive. It is actively demeaning women. And I don't use the term sexist often because I think it loses its pop if you use it too often. But actively sexist to the point where I'm willing to call it out. That shit is...
iDubbbz only has 12 tweets on his account currently.
iDubbbz is an icon, and like him being, I mean, I don't want to say the first YouTuber to actively support a pro-sex worker lifestyle for a partner, but like he got thrust into that limelight recently. Go, you icon, you legend, get it. Mm-hmm. If you want to talk kings, that's a king move right there. Fuck all of you people. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly have no context to like who all's being called a king. For me, it's just kind of like, another thing, like calling some women queens, calling some men kings. That's whatever.
I don't know.
It can be used positively.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with the term king.
Ian, you're a goddamn king.
Thank you. You too, buddy. But when I see it used on iFunny, which is the only platform I would use that regularly.
Oh, that's where it's coming from. Yeah, this absolute simpleton still uses iFunny.
Leave me alone, okay? It's the only app I use for memes because I'm lazy and I don't want to go anywhere else on the internet.
It's called Reddit r/PewDiePie submissions. What else are you using?
Oh, actually, see, that would be a better place for memes because I trust PewDiePie's fan base more than I trust. Most of the time,
by
I trust
far.
His fan base. Huh?
By far. I'd say the things that really do go up to the top of PewDiePie submissions are the cream of the crop.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that was my short-lived rant on the toxic culture of the idea of the simp and the toxicity there abound. It's just if women,
yeah, I mean, I do think
simp
is being overused on just men who support sex workers and men who are kind to women, but at the same time, what at the base, what a simp is someone who will donate to a cam girl, etc., a woman online that shares her body, and it doesn't not necessarily expects, but kind of develops this in the mind relationship with them.
Oh, that's true.
It's sort of, yeah.
And I guess I don't want to get my words twisted here, where it's like, I think that you can't have a negative relationship with a woman where they're using you in the way that like the stereotypical simp is being used in that way. I would even say that it is. Stop it. I would even say that it has happened.
Yeah.
You know, to me before in that sense. Not to out myself.
I feel like they're in
simp.
the same vein. Mm-hmm. No, I think we've all been simps in our times, for sure.
I agree.
But for me, I kind of put it in the same vein as like the sugar daddies that all they want is like a picture of you in a dress, and they give you $1,000. Like it's in the same vein of that, except the woman kind of has a bit more power.
And that's always,
and in general, it's empowering, but it's pro queen and anti king, but there can be both.
And I think there should be both long term. I think we should idealize the idea of a healthy sexual medium. You know,
but just because you donate to a cam girl or someone on, you know, a woman on Twitch doesn't automatically make you a simp. Or because you're nice to women on Twitter, fucking simp. No, that's not what that is. That's not what that means.
No, and not only is it not what it means, but if we don't call out when people are using those terms poorly, it instills this idea that, or it pushes the idea, I should say, that all people who are sexual or are okay with sexual people or even supporting sexuality within this context are, quote, simps and are, quote, inferior in some way or whores in some. I mean, it's just kind of, for me, it's just kind of the inverted version of people slut shaming. Like, it has turned into the idea of reverse slut shaming, where not that it's shaming the slut, but it's shaming the person who isn't slut shaming. Does that make sense?
Right, exactly.
If there's a male who's even vaguely pro-sex or vaguely pro-women's sexuality in any meaningful way, and you aren't actively just slut shaming someone, it makes you somehow lesser, you know? And I just...
Right, exactly.
It's cringy. It really is cringy, and I don't stand it. I don't stand it at all.
No, I wish we'd go back to what we used to call simps, and that's a beta orbiter. Basically, it's just a guy that's in the friend zone that doesn't want to accept that he's in the friend zone.
Okay, but on the other end of the spectrum, anyone who says the friend zone doesn't exist, I've got news for you. I've been there. It's not pleasant. Like, you know.
Listen, like, I think there's a generality that people kind of put over the friend zone, and it's that, oh, you're friends with a woman, you must be in the friend zone.
No.
Like, it's vaguely childish to be in the friend zone, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
It's about the attitude that goes into it, for sure. And it's one of those things where
if you're an adult, you'll have you'll have a conversation about it. You
Absolutely.
know? You'll be like, hey, I have these feelings. Hey, I have these feelings. Okay. And if you want to continue being friends, then you'll continue being friends. The friend zone is when you're a guy that still wants to be with her, but won't say that and will just continue being friends. That's childish.
And I think the big thing about the friend zone is it is something that, in terms of like, you know, you want to be one thing, but that's not going to work out. The mature thing to do is, once you've talked through it, you've you know, announced your feelings. I think the only reason you should tell someone, oh, you're stuck in the friend zone, bro, is when they have had that conversation. It didn't go the way they wanted, but they're stuck on it, if that makes sense. I think there needs to begin that phase of moving on, you know? And
yeah, when you can't accept that they don't want to be with you, that's when you have to admit to yourself, like, when they don't want to be with you and you can't accept that, that's when you're effectively in the friend zone.
You know, if you, like, happen to be friends with a woman, that does not automatically put you in the friend zone, if that makes sense. I don't buy that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that goes for gays too. #LGBT represent. Woo!
Exactly. Coming from a bunch of straight guys. This entire podcast just feels like, you remember that picture of like a bunch of kids and it says, "Is Fortnite overrated?" And it looks like they're just having like a deep, in-depth conversation about it.
Ooh.
Is capitalism overrated? From two white guys.
Listen. I have am I allowed to pull I have a black girlfriend card? Is that something I'm allowed to do? Or,